A very good day to you. Thank you for joining us for this first episode in looking at the Sectional Title 10-Year Maintenance Plan. In the first episode, we will deal with an introductory overview. The sources for our information presented in the introductory will include Sectional Title Schemes Management Act, Sectional Title Schemes Management Regulations, 22 years of experience in managing sectional title scheme maintenance, Curasure and turnkey maintenance systems procedures, policies and technologies developed, managing agents' input and experience, legal position and input of various experts in the industry. The methodology that we will be using today in the training program is designed to be a practical guide to understanding and implementing the 10-year maintenance plan. We will refer to the maintenance repair and replacement plan, but please note further episodes will deal more with legal frameworks and the implementation. So, what is required by law? To establish and maintain a separate maintenance reserve fund. We need to secure a separate bank account for the reserve fund. Prepare separate sets of accounts for the reserve fund. We have to prepare a written maintenance report for the reserve fund. This is referred to as the maintenance repair and replacement plan. Raise both minimum and annual levies for the reserve fund. And to present all of the above at each annual general meeting, AGM of the scheme. So, who is tasked with the responsibility of preparing such a maintenance plan? Well, of course, it is the trustees. By law, the duties and powers of the body corporate vest in the trustees, and the trustees must exercise these powers and duties. The law deals with two very specific funds, the administrative and the reserve fund. Let's first look at the administrative fund. This fund is used for operational expenses, which will likely include, in other words, managing agent fees, municipal charges, gardening, security services, day-to-day maintenance like plumbing or electrical, etc. The second, the Act requires we separate the two funds for the following purposes. The reserve fund. This fund is used for maintenance of the common property, structures and major components on the common property. Roofs, waterproofing, windows, painting, boundary walls, carports, repairs and maintenance to infrastructure, etc. So, what is this fund used for? Well, it must be used for the implementation of the maintenance, repair and replacement plan of the body corporate referred to in Rule 22. The law is very clear. This fund is ring-fenced for maintenance purposes only. What should be included in the plan? The 10-year maintenance plan must be a written report projected over 10 years. It must include a list of items requiring maintenance, repairs, or replacement. It must list the current conditions of items, the year in which the maintenance is required for each item, and an estimated cost for the required maintenance items, the projected life of maintenance or the frequency of the maintenance, and of course any relevant information necessary. To present all of the above at each annual general meeting in a written report. So let's start with step 1. Let's start looking at practically completing the 10-year maintenance plan in a step-by-step process. The first step will be to list a logical and basic list of items or sequence of items. In this case, we have listed the roofs, external walls, windows, boundary wall, and general items that will require maintenance on the property in the next 10 years. The second step is to record the current condition. Our recommendation is to use the very basic condition rating, for example, fair, poor, and good. You can, of course, add specific notes per item if you feel necessary. The third step is to list or record the first year in which we would like to maintain these items in our 10-year plan. So, we record the first financial year we will initiate the maintenance per item. The fourth step is to list how many years between maintenance cycles. In other words, once we maintain something, how long will it last before we have to maintain it again? In this case, we just list the frequency of cycle as this parameter. The fifth step is to include the current estimated cost of planned maintenance. You will see the single column with the current estimate of maintenance items. The sixth step is then to project this over a 10-year period, in a diagram depicting the maintenance plan over 10 years. As you can see, it is a very basic, straightforward plan and records the items as we have found in the year of review. Importantly, in step 7 is that, in essence, the maintenance plan can therefore have a very basic and conservative starting point. The important thing is to review the information and to start recording each maintenance project and action. From this point forward, the maintenance plan will be reviewed annually for each AGM to follow. So, how do we find the maintenance plan? The next step is to put together the PQ schedule and reserve fund levy contribution schedule. This is completed in a similar fashion as the admin budget, per section and by PQ. We use exactly the same PQ basis of calculation for each section to determine the levy contribution per section or unit for the reserve fund. This levy contribution will then be approved at the AGM for the upcoming funding year. One can even project the levies over 10 years and show the owners the projected levies. Note, this is only a reflection of the 10-year plan levy contribution and does not mean that the levies are approved for the 10-year period. The 10-year plan is reviewed at each subsequent AGM and the levies are raised and approved for each financial year. In closing, we'd like to recommend the following steps. Keep it simple, and keep it to a manageable plan and budget. Remember that maintaining the common property is a duty. It is a must. Review each year. The emphasis should not be perfection straight off the bat, but rather growing the plan. Record all maintenance projects and improve record keeping. Use historical information as guidance. Keep day-to-day maintenance in the administrative budget, in other words, plumbing and electrical repairs. Grow the plan with items as information becomes available, or when problem items rear their heads. Make use of experts. It will save you a great deal in the long run. We'd like to thank you for spending the time to go through the practical overview of the 10-year maintenance plan with us. Keep an eye out for our next featured episode that will deal specifically with a minimum and annual contribution to the reserve fund. Until then, stay safe.